Okay, I hope that you can hear me loud and clear. As you can hear, English is not my first language. So if you do not understand my accent, please raise your hand and I will repeat. And I will tell you a little story about my Slavic accent in India. Last year I was in Calcutta and I was staying in a very nice little hotel in a former mansion in the middle of Calcutta. And one day I was taking a cab to the hotel and I told the taxi driver, please, Astor Hotel, that and that address. And I got a blank face from the driver. I said, okay, Astor Hotel? I said, do you speak English? And she said, yes. I said, Astor Hotel. Oh, Astor! And then we clicked. So, if you somehow do not understand what I'm saying, please don't be shy, stop me, and I will repeat. Okay, so let's roll the ball. I'm starting to talk about emails with Tagore. And if you read this, that it is very simple to be happy, and it is very difficult to be simple, you might ask me, what Tagore has to do with talk about emails? Well, a lot of things. Remember this word, and about happiness, I will talk at the end. So, Tagore lived in, you can say, maybe analog or pre-analog world. But everything that he wrote and everything that was written about him, everything, all those quotes that were written by his friends and colleagues, they stayed as a record. And today, 100 years later on, you can read his writings and you can get them in any way you want. Is it paper? Is it digital? He is available to you guys. So not only that he was one of the smartest people in the world, but everything that he did 100 years ago, it is still with us. Having said that, remember that your email, your whatever you are doing in the digital world, it stays as a record forever. You might want to delete something on your laptop, and you will have an illusion that what you have done is gone. But even if you throw your laptop under the elephant and then take your laptop to maybe Geneva, where is the CERN facility, and put it on the huge magnet to wipe your drive, your writing will stay somewhere. So, it does stay forever. The same way as Tagore's thoughts are going to stay forever with us. Even more important when we are talking about emails is they can hunt you down the road. So you might want to consider how fast do you want to react? Is it a really big hurry to write something to somebody? Is it really necessary to press that button and send it immediately? Is the world burning? Is your finger sitting on some special red button that you have to do that as soon as possible? And the first question you need to ask yourself, is it necessary to write that email at all? Or you can just pick up the phone and talk to the guy that you wanted to write to. So there is no such situation in your lives at this moment, and hopefully not in the future, where you have to react like this. Even if your boss is chasing you, even if your professor is pressing you to respond immediately, not necessarily means that the very same second you have to send something. And usually if you do that in a hurry, you will send garbage. And then you will regret it, and you cannot revoke it, and it will stay forever. And you might say something that you didn't think at that moment, and it can come in a year or two, or maybe in 10 years, that somebody will pull out your email and say, well, sir, you said this. And then what? I changed my mind, and unless you're American president, and you can stick with alternative facts. Header of email. When you sit to write your email, think about who is the recipient. Is it a single person? Or in a two field, you will put a couple of guys, which will create a confusion. Do you have to put somebody on the CC line? And this is a troublemaker. Most of the people who receive emails as BCC do not understand what that means. That when you send an email and you have a bunch of guys in 2 and CC, they are not going to see who was listed on BCC. And that guy, not reading carefully, might do something with your email, and you have BCC him because you do not want him to be visible on your emails to everybody else, and maybe reply, maybe send his opinion or whatever, and that can create a problem for you. So when you sit in front of the blank new message form, pay attention. Is it a single person? Are you addressing a community? Do you CC your friend, your colleague, your professor, and this BCC? The reply and forward. When you are replying to somebody's emails, again, you have to go carefully through the email that you have received. Are you replying to all that are listed on that email that you have received? Or you are only replying to the person who has sent to you, and you do not care about his friends on the CC line? So take also that note, that when you are clicking on reply, is it only reply or reply to all? Sometimes you do not want to share your opinion with the whole community. You want to share only with the single person that you have received that email from. Forward. Again, think thrice. What are you achieving with forwarding that email? Are you forwarding that email to somebody who was not on the previous recipient list? Are you forwarding that to yourself? If you're forwarding to somebody who is not supposed to receive that email, you might create a problem for yourself down the road. So again, all those fields here are something that is not, you're not supposed to take that like this. Think, just think who is your crowd that you are either writing to or responding to or forwarding the email that you have received. Any questions about this, guys? So please, if you have any questions, I forgot to tell you this at the beginning, just raise your hand and please ask. And now we are coming to something that people are underestimating. That's the subject field. In many cases, subject field is the most important line on your email. It is the selling point of your email and recipient will judge and think about your email. Should I delete it? Should I just open it and glance it? Or, okay, so this is something that I really have to take care of, and I'm going to read this and spend time on it. The reason I'm telling you is that from my professional experience, and on average, I was receiving every regular day approximately around 100 emails. When we had some big programs at the point of going live on the corporate level, it was going up and up. So there is no way that I could really read all 100 emails. There is no way that I can even open all 100 emails, because I will be spending all my day just clicking and playing with an email application. So my selection criteria was, first, who is sending that email? Of course, I'm going to pay attention if my chief information officer, my boss, is sending that to me, or if the CEO is sending something to me. Of course, I'm going to open and read. But what about the other guys who are at the same level as me on the corporate level or below? So what was my criteria? My criteria was subject line. And we had quite a good understanding between certain executives in the corporation is, when something is just for your information, we will put that in a subject field, which means I can read that tonight, I can read it during the weekend. I do not have to spend time thinking, okay, should I open it, should I click, or should I delete it without opening? Unfortunately, a bunch of guys never open such emails down the road. They will say, okay, I will do that once I have more and more time, you know, maybe during the weekend, and something else comes up, and they never open something that is for your information. Another thing that really helped me, when I needed something to happen in terms of a decision that is above my pay level, I would put in a header, in a subject field, for your approval, dash, and what that executive needs to approve. So there is no mistake what I am asking for. Is it important? Is it not important? So that guy immediately would know that, okay, this is something that I need to either approve or zip it. If you are writing something that is confidential, let's say you are in a Amul corporation, and there is some big ethics problem within, okay, forget about Amul, company ABC. And you write to your manager because you want to bring something to his attention. And you want him not to share your information with anybody else. That he will say, oh, my colleague this and that told me this and that. No, no names. You put confidential in the subject and then what you're writing of. That does not guarantee that that person will not share what you have sent. But at least that person, if he's smart enough, will understand, okay, this is really confidential matter. I should look into that. I should not mention how I learned about that. Yes, he is a whistleblower, and I will take care of that. I will talk to him. I will not disclose his identity, and I will proceed from there. So make that statement that if something is touchy, is confidential, make that statement in your email. urgent. I hope that as future engineers, rocket scientists, you will not sit with your finger on the red button of the nukes that India has. And if you do, there are some other protocols that are involved. It is not done through emails. I personally hated when I receive an email that says urgent, because usually it was not. And I hope that you are familiar with Dilbert. A colleague of mine in the morning, because we were working in a 24/7 manner. We had facilities in Asia, in Europe, and in Americas. So you're receiving emails every minute, day and night. The first thing that he will do in the morning, he will delete all urgent emails. He didn't care where it is coming from. Everything that is urgent, if it is really urgent, they will call him. No need to read. So be careful if you ever have to write urgent, because you might be wasting your credit with the person that you're reporting to down the road. Another thing about deleting emails, and I never managed to achieve that. So when I was taking vacation days, usually it was 10 business days, meaning 2 weeks, times 90, 100 emails per day. So when I come back from my vacation, unless I was taking my BlackBerry or my laptop, I would have more than 1,000 emails in my inbox. And you know, I was applying different techniques, how to sort them, to get rid of garbage, to get rid of urgent emails, and so on, for your information stuff. And at the end of the day, you end up with 400 or 500 emails. And then one of the executives told me what he is doing. When he comes back from vacation, he will sort per name, and he will take care only of emails that he have received from his boss and from his boss's boss, which is approximately maybe 15%, 20% of emails. Everything else he will delete. Don't even think about checking the subject field and, you know, is it urgent, is it this, is it no. No, he will delete all of them. I said, how can you do that? I said, look, we are not in the business of creating the Third World War. So nothing is that urgent in a corporate life. If it is situation like this, then we are working for a very wrong corporation. But put that aside. If something is important and they know that I'm coming back, they will get back to me and they will send me a reminder, or they will pick up the phone. And so no reason to waste the time and read hundreds of emails. I personally never achieved that. I didn't click that delete button. I was thinking about that. So I was ending up, you know, for the first couple of days, spending nights reading all those emails, trying to classify them, you know, what is the top level importance, what is less, and so on. But this stuff, me personally, was driving me crazy. And I bet once you start working for some companies that you will experience less or more pretty much the same situation. There is always something urgent. And in some corporations, that is also my personal experience, it depends who will scream the loudest. That does not mean that that particular topic or issue is the most important. And you have to learn how to handle that. But in emails, this is it. Now, do you have any questions about the header? To reply, forward, subject field. So point number one about when you open your email application, subject field, that is your selling point. Simple, straight to the point. That is how you are going to sell your email to be open and to be read. I have a couple of slides, things to remember. Again, based on my professional experience, how I was handling my emails when I was writing emails. So this is a body of the email, your text. Remember Tagore, simplicity. One of my colleagues told me once when I was writing an email, trying to explain one complicated program that was supposed to help business to cut something that is called invoicing time. So how the company will get money faster on their accounts. So it was a complicated system that we were developing. But I made it even more complicated when I was writing that email. And I sent to one of the guys, asking him, do you understand what I'm talking about? And he came back and said, absolutely no clue what is this all about. And that email was supposed to go to the guys who are decision makers, meaning finance guys. So if colleague who is coming from my world that is between IT and the business, that is what I was doing, connecting IT and business. If he cannot understand, a finance guy probably will have also no clue what I'm talking about, and I am asking for a couple of millions. So, okay, I back to the drawing board. And the first thing I said, okay, first, this is too long. And talking about that, you do not write books or essays in email application. Forget it, zip it. If you have to write an email that is 2 or 3 pages, then that's a big issue. That's a major problem that you are addressing. Maybe you want to avoid writing an email, have a meeting to discuss. Email is not something that you will start with ancient history to get to the 21st century. People tend to go left and right from the topic. Again, it is nice to read emails from the people whose English is really, who have mastered the secrets of English language. And of course, down the road, you will be receiving emails from people who really write beautifully. But again, email is not a book. Email is something that you send to communicate simple information, or to talk about the problem, or to offer solutions. No need to volunteer information, especially not information out of context. Again, from my professional career, we got a new chief information officer. In Rolls-Royce, that is a person who is reporting to chief executive officer. So he is in the second level. And he asked his, the guys who are reporting to him to share some thoughts about corporate world and IT and the business and what IT crowd should change, what business should change, how we can make peace between two groups who hate each other and never understand each other and so on. So I sent an email writing about something that I felt at that moment as a very important thing, and that is acquisition and mergers. When corporate is acquiring another company, you want to bring that company into your system. I'm not talking about login and name. I'm talking about merger of everything, that you will swallow them to the last bowl, that they will use the processes that your company is implementing and adhering to, using IT capabilities, HR, everything. And I noticed that working on some projects in Americas, that we didn't have a playbook how to do that. We didn't have a Bible to walk into that company that was acquired by Rolls-Royce and say, okay, guys, this is it. Those are the new rules. This is the game you are going to play from now on. And then a bunch of IT guys will march in, reconnect everything, recreate everything, and so on. No, we didn't have that book. And I wrote an email saying, dear sir, I think that one of the priorities down the road should be, among other things, as number one, that playbook related to acquisitions and mergers. Comma, and then I volunteer something. And that was because recent experience, which was a disaster, and I started volunteering necessary information. Nothing happened with what I was proposing. Absolutely nothing. That was forgotten. But a bunch of things happened with, oh, there was an issue, there was a problem, was it fixed? Who fixed it? Who created the problem? So just lost in translation. If I had stick to the point, this is what I think we need, period, and forget that comma because we had an issue, almost disaster, we took 2 months to recover, business was down, millions of pounds lost, and so on, I would probably get what I wanted. So, point taken, no need, unless it is necessary. Unless it is necessary. Identify yourself clearly. Let's say you're writing email to Professor Ark, and he doesn't know you. So, you will put your name, of course, but say, hey, I am an undergraduate student, I am in the physics department, just position yourself that professor would know, okay, who is this? Okay, that's the guy. He's from physics, and he is asking me something related to humanities. Not only in your university cloud, it is applicable everywhere you go. Again, no need to press that button. Send, 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 send. 5 minutes later will not change anything on the other end, but it can affect you on your end. So read it, especially if it is something tricky. A single comma or a single word makes a difference. Again, do not assume privacy. Even if you put it as a confidential, that person might not do that, what you are asking him. Might not keep your name aside. So instead of writing a confidential email, you might want to knock on the door and say, sir, or send an email. Sir, would you be so kind? I need 10 minutes of your time to talk about this and that, in general. because privacy is not guaranteed. There are some applications that are we have been using that in one Norwegian company and in a British company. That you can prevent recipient to forward your email, to print your email, even to take a screenshot. But again, you can take a mobile phone and snap it. So again, think thrice. Formal and informal situation. And that is also linked to dear, hi, or how do you start. Funny thing, at least that was at the last corporation that I was working for. The higher you are in the corporate ladder, less words you use in the header. They don't use dear, they don't use hi. Eventually they will use probably only your first name, or in many cases no name. They're straight to the point. The lower you are dear, dearest, and so on. So and I asked, okay, is that some kind of a rule here? I said, no. I said, okay, come on. I mean, I started my career very low, and I was writing dear all, dear Mr., and so on. When I was growing up a little bit, I started using hi. The more I grew, it was less and less those dear, hi, and so on, and I ended up with names or all, comma, and then I will go. So it will, of course, depend on the company that you are working for, but these formal and informal situations, if you're sending to your colleague that you're working with for some time and you know him and you are going out together, of course it is going to be informal as much as it can be in a formal corporate environment. You're not going to joke. You're not going to send some stupid things that will haunt you down the road. But, of course, if you're asking something your professor, of course it is going to be formal because you are not at this, you're on this level. Okay. Yep. Okay. Different companies, different rules. Different countries, different rules. My take is I never wrote dear Mr. CEO. Never used the function. I used the name. I used the first name. Excuse me. But I can see that in India, very often you're using dear family name. In a university environment, it is dear professor this and that, with P as a capital. In Americas, people are less formal than in India. India is what I really like, a formal society, and I like when I read those emails. And I like when somebody is saying dear, although in many cases you do not think about that person as a dear person, but again, it is polite to say dear. But definitely not a position like dear director. Only that. Dear director Giant, or dear professor this and that. So I would never use dear professor without his name. Does that answer your question? Well, let's say, again, based on my experience, I was managing a team. I was sitting in Canada, and my team was in Americas, in Asia, and in Europe. And every once in a while, I would hire somebody that I really do not know. So based on CV, based on some references, you go through that HR process and you hire somebody, but still you do not know that person. You will learn, you will feel that person down the road in a couple of months or within a year, but you cannot say that you know that person. Having said that, you will be in the same position, the same situation that somebody will hire you. Think about your emails from the prism of this. That person who doesn't know you will make his opinion about you partially on those emails. Especially if you're working for a big corporation. Let's say you're working in Ahmedabad and your boss next in line above you is in Hyderabad, and you will see that guy maybe 3 times a year. You might talk to him once a week, but he will be reading emails, your emails probably on a daily basis, and your email will be who you are. Don't waste your credit up front. What I mean by that do not send unnecessary short emails that he will say, okay, I know this guy, he's writing, he's really working a lot. No need for that. Again, who is your recipient? One size does not fit all. Even if you're writing a formal email, there is a difference how you're going to address your colleagues that are on the same line, or colleagues below you, or your bosses and their bosses. If you are writing, let's say, a proposal, what I found very useful was, let's say I'm sending an email asking for approval about this and that. And I will say, this is the situation. Those are the solutions. Number 1, number 2, number 3. I suggest we go with solution number 1 because of this and that. Please let me know what is your decision. If it is out of my area and paycheck that I can make such a decision. Usually it is based on the amount of money that you can make decision on. But I would not put that in one sentence, first, second, no, I'll put as points. Number 1, number 2, number 3. It is very good, visibility is there, short, simple, straight to the point. If it is only one topic, you don't have to put it as, number 1. Be very precise about what you're asking for. If you're asking for somebody's opinion, okay. If you are asking for a decision, make sure that you use that word. Do not put, let me know your thoughts. It is yes or no. Very simple. There is no gray zone. Unless sometimes you work for a British corporation. Talking about different accents. I never had an issue understanding my colleagues. Our meetings, our conference calls were like United Nations meetings. So all kinds of accents. Most difficult were some British accents from certain regions in England. Is it Derbyshire or somebody? We had, or some of us had an issue. But not only that. Down the road, you can adjust your sensors and that is not an issue. But what was sometimes a very interesting situation is that we would finish a conference call, the guy in charge is a British guy, He was supposed to tell you, is it yes, is it no, there is no gray zone, we finished the call, he is off the call, everybody else is on the call, and then who is shooting first? Guys from Texas say, can somebody explain to me what was decided? Because something was told, nobody had a clue what was told, even if you read between the lines, and the guy was asking, okay, please, I'm an American, is it yes or is it no? So, again, think about this. Don't let the recipient try to translate what you want from him. Be very specific, and you will save your time and his time. But again, you will learn certain things. A British guy, one of the execs, and we learned that in a hard way, we were, again, presenting one huge program, and he said, interesting. And he said, oh yeah, that's good. Not knowing that interesting means go back to the drawing board. So when you start working one day, very soon, for big corporations, you will learn all those phrases, those dynamics, how to read between the line. But when you are writing an email, there is no need somebody to spend time trying to figure out what you're asking for or what you're talking about. Be positive, even if you're communicating not so positive info. Professor Arka was sharing a story from Australia that one of the professors was writing a thank you note to somebody who was applying for a position. So he was too polite, trying to communicate that, sorry, love, but no love, I'm not going to hire you. He was so polite that the guy didn't understand, and he came back and said, so what about next meeting? So I'm not saying that you have to overreach with your politeness and to be more positive than necessary. But especially once you become a manager and once you become an executive, you will be faced with situations when you really have to communicate in writing certain unpleasant things. It is very difficult when you have to fire somebody to put a positive spin saying, yeah, you know, look at the bright side. We have just fired you, but that is opening so many opportunities for you that you can work for this and that company, and that first you will have a free couple of months to rest a little bit. That's a joke, of course. But be smart. Be smart. You do not want to really push the guy down under the level of the earth if it is not necessary. And check again for any errors. During the last 3 years of my professional life before I retired, I was up and running around 4:15 in the morning, because my first conference call would start around 5 o'clock because of the time differences to connect everybody and so on. And usually I would try to reply my emails, most important emails, or write new ones before 5 o'clock in the morning. Huge mistake. Terrible mistake. Because I was sending gibberish thing. And then I will have to write it again because I would be getting replies, what were you trying to say? Or I would read emails after emails, and then I will click on one to reply, and I will write something, click send, and then I will figure out that I have replied to the wrong person sending absolutely wrong information. Again, going back to the beginning of those things to remember, no need to hurry. You are not deciding on the life and death of somebody, even if you're working for a big corporation. There is time. If there is no time, then you're working for a wrong corporation. You should think about trying to find another job. Basic stuff. Same as you are writing your essays or when you're writing your exams. You do not want to submit to your professor a paper with spelling errors or grammatical errors. Even if your English is not the first language and if you are having some difficulties with English, there is online stuff that you can check. Is it correct or not? I'm not talking about does it make sense. I'm talking about the basic stuff. Follow up. I was sending one of those for approval emails to the guy who was usually replying within half an hour. How he managed to do that, I really do not know. I asked him once, do you have an assistant who is taking care of that stuff? He said no. And once there was no reply from him, couple of hours, all day. It was not that urgent, but the next day I sent a reminder. And then I got a phone call that that person left the company. Okay, so good excuse But follow up. If you are sending something to somebody and you need an input from that person and you are not getting that reply, try to figure out, is that guy maybe out of the country? Is he attending some executive meeting that is going to last 3 days and all the phones are out? No communication with the outside world. Check those things before you send a reminder. Follow up also means if somebody is helping you and help you, that you will follow up and send a thank you note. Those things do matter in corporate life. And it also, what is extremely important, that you can share that help and the help that you're getting from that person with the others. It really helps a lot. It is talking about your personality. If you are in charge of a project and you are delivering that project and you hit the wall and you ask a colleague to help you and he helps you and you finish the project, and once you're presenting that in front of everybody else, either through conference call or whatever is the system that you will be using, make that point that you helped me and I really appreciate that. Without you, I will not be there. And it is talking so much about your personality if you're doing that. So I'm a little bit sharing certain things outside the scope of the email, but also you will communicate that through emails. Now,
How would you follow up with someone like a stranger of sorts, like if you're communicating with someone who does not know you?
That's a very good question. So the question is, you are trying to establish a contact, you're sending certain information or asking for some information from the person you do not know, you never met, and there is no reply. After a couple of days, you will send a reminder. If that doesn't work, try to find a phone number and reach that guy over the phone. Uh, of course, different situations, different approach. Let's say you're applying for a job and you have a name of the HR person who is supposed to receive all those applications. Some HR folks, they just do not have time to reply to 2,756 emails and letters that they will receive. So is there any need to call that person? I would. I would. I would say, hi, Mrs. Whatever. I'm just calling to inquire, did you receive my email with my application and my CV? And then you will ask the second question, when we will be getting any feedback from you, am I in for interview or not? I would go for it. That is how I was opening certain doors. In a polite way. If they say, sorry, love, I didn't have time, you will say, I understand that. I will send you again my email if somehow it was, if it disappeared. Just put your foot and slowly push it in. Again, Dilbert, very useful tip about long email messages. My sister, who is a psychologist, when you ask her, hi sis, how are you doing? Is everything okay? I'm doing this and that, and my email note is, let's say, 3 sentences, I will get boop. I have to read it for 2 days. I never understood how is she able to come up with such details in a simple email about how are you. And everything is fine. Everything is okay. And the birds are singing, and the sun is shining, and the rivers are flowing, and there is no third world war, but still. And I asked her, okay, are you aware that some people do not like this and they do not read? No. It is easy for me to write and I like to write. Okay. Her husband, my brother-in-law, he doesn't read emails that are, he's psychiatrist. He doesn't read emails that are longer than 5 sentences. If you didn't manage to tell him what is your topic all about, or what do you want from him, or what you are telling him in 5, 6 sentences, the rest doesn't matter. So, remember that you will be dealing with guys who do not read long emails. If you need, as I mentioned, to write something that is really long, zip that requesting a meeting, because then you will be sure that what you have to tell that person, that it was presented. Now, as Professor Aka mentioned, I was in the first phase of my life, I was working as a journalist. Some of you are maybe familiar with those rules, 5 W's and 1 H. That can be applied also to your emails. It is that simple. What happened, who was involved, when, why, where, and how did that thing happen? So maybe make a mental note when you are explaining. I'm not saying about simple emails, and talking about simple emails. Is it necessary to send a simple email, or you can use other platforms like messaging, like Viber or whatever. No need to send an email to say okay, or to say coffee at 5 or tea at 5. But when you are sending something with information, think about, did you cover those things? And if something is missing, you might have a problem. And please remember not to do this. So here is the problem. That was the solution, and this is the result. So I'm not saying that what I have told you is a silver bullet, but using those guidelines that I was updating for myself during my professional career, I never ended up in a situation that I will say, I know IIT graduates, and I hope that their wisdom came to me also through the cyberspace, and I can handle complex projects and programs on my own because nobody reads my emails and nobody is chipping in. So think about, if you are not getting replies to your emails, think if nobody is calling you. You cannot blame immediately those folks. You might think about also, am I doing those things when I'm talking about communication in a proper way? Am I communicating clearly to the crowd what I want to tell them? It is not personal, unless you are really a difficult person and everybody, sorry. But that's a different situation when somebody is really a difficult person and nobody likes to talk to him. But if you are ending up sending emails and you're getting no replies, put a finger on your head and think, what did you send? And ask for help. Ask your friend. One of my colleagues was telling me, look, if I'm explaining something complex to the crowd in my email, to the crowd that has no or very limited knowledge about that topic, I have to write it in a way that my 5-year-old son will understand it. So simple, simple, simple. Same stuff that Tagore said. Now, I have 2 examples that I want to share with you. Are we okay with time? This is extremely important one. It's about cookies. So, subject is very clear. It is a complaint regarding with receipt number, this and that. So, the guy, Scott, purchased some cookies. And full information is here. When, where, whatever, including the receipt number. This is what happened. And he is very angry. And this is what he is asking for. So on a very simple example, you have all of those things. So journalistic rules apply to email. There is no doubt that Mr. Howard will not understand what that guy is asking for based on what had happened, when, and how. Another example, not the best one. This is a thank you email after the job interview. When I was reading this email, I noticed a couple of things that might be missing in my opinion. The first one is subject field. Okay, this Mrs. French, who is receiving that email, will see in an email name who is sending that. So she can say, okay, that's Peter sending me an email. But that HR person or a manager or executive might have had multiple interviews over the week. And you are sending this email day later saying today. And Mrs. French will say, this, whatever is the name, Scott guy, where was that? Was it yesterday? Was it day before? Maybe she will read those emails a week after that. So, for me, what is missing here is the date. What I would also do, in a subject field, I will put my name and I will put the job title. Of course, it says here job title. For sure, I would put junior engineer, whatever is the position. And the same thing I will repeat in the body of the email. So, at the end, I'm going back to Tagorev, and I have been coming to IIT for the last 3 or 4 years because although I'm retired, and my wife also, my wife is teaching a course here in civil engineering. And I really like being in this school environment. I like to learn. I am attending some classes here because it's never too late to learn new things. And when I look at you young folks that, the future is in front of you, it makes me also younger to be and to share maybe, once in a while my experience with young folks here. And Tagore has such a good point about where you should go with your dreams. There is no limit, guys, for you in front of you. And again, one of the brains of last and this century that I really read a lot about is Stephen Hawking. So it is such a good link between those two thoughts. Look at the stars and not on your feet. So take whatever I have said as one experience. On the internet. You will find gazillion of papers, publications, books, PowerPoint presentations, YouTube stuff. You will learn down the road based on your own experience how to manage your emails and how to write. And if you have any questions, please.